In the twisting corridors of General Hospital, Thursday's episode on May 29, 2025, unspooled a series of revelations that dug deep into secrets long buried and emotions carefully masked. From fractured family ties to romantic evolutions, the residents of Port Charles once again found their lives tilting on axes they could no longer control. At the center of this whirlwind was a long-awaited confrontation between Dante Falconeri and Lulu Spencer, a moment charged with years of tension, betrayal, and bitter truths. But surrounding their reckoning were quieter, equally poignant moments. A heartfelt exchange between a father and daughter, a romance blooming into something deeper, and a moment of moral clarity delivered in an unexpected conversation. Dante had spent weeks harboring a gnawing sense of unrest. There was something unsaid in the air, something heavy in Lulu's eyes every time she looked at Gio. It was more than guilt. It was knowledge. And that knowledge, of the truth behind Brook Lynn's decision to place their son for adoption years ago, had finally risen to the surface in the ugliest of ways. Lulu, in a moment of pain and poor judgment, had cornered Lois at the nurses' ball, triggering a cascade of realization in Gio that left the young man reeling and irrevocably changed. For Dante, who had always operated by a strict code of loyalty and justice, Lulu's silence struck a blow deeper than betrayal. It wasn't just the lie. It was that she, the woman he once shared a life and a child with, had decided on her own what truths he could and could not handle. When Dante confronted Lulu, the air between them was electric, searing with all the things left unsaid for too long. She tried to explain, about timing, fear, not wanting to disrupt Gio's life, but her words rang hollow. Dante saw through them, saw the truth, that she had chosen silence over trust. And worse, she had inserted herself into a story that was not hers to control. Gio had a right to know who he was, but the method of revelation was stolen from both him and his biological parents. Dante, who had once forgiven Brook Lynn's silence for the sake of peace, could not extend that same grace to Lulu, not when the damage had already been done. His anger wasn't loud. It was quiet, simmering beneath clenched fists and clipped words. And when it was over, Lulu was left standing in the wreckage of a relationship that might never recover. Elsewhere in Port Charles, another emotional earthquake was unfolding, this time in a more subdued, but no less devastating form. Brook Lynn Quartermain, haunted by decades of regret and unspoken truths, finally faced her father, Ned. For over 20 years, she had carried the weight of a secret that defined her, one she had shared only with her mother, never daring to speak it aloud to the man who had shaped so much of her life. But secrets have a way of surfacing when least expected, and now, standing face to face with Ned, the cost of silence was finally due. Ned didn't yell. He didn't accuse. But his pain was palpable. As Brook Lynn laid bare the story of a young girl overwhelmed by circumstance, of a baby she loved too much to raise in the chaos of her life, Ned's eyes clouded not with judgment, but with sorrow. He was a grandfather and hadn't even known it. In that moment, all his years of believing he'd been present, supportive, involved, they unraveled. Yet as the conversation deepened, so did their bond. Brook Lynn, braver now than she'd ever been, offered Ned the one thing she had withheld for so long, the truth. And Ned, despite the heartbreak, chose understanding. Their talk didn't end with resolution, but with something better, a new beginning. It wasn't forgiveness that passed between them, but recognition. Recognition of pain, of love, of a shared history neither could change but both could grow from. Across town, life continued to move forward in its quiet, relentless way. In one corner of Port Charles, Sasha Gilmore offered counsel to Cody Bell in a conversation that revealed the intricate web of relationships tying them together. Once adversaries, now cousins by blood and confidants by choice, Sasha and Cody stood at a crossroads. For Cody, the guilt of long-hidden truths was beginning to catch up with him, particularly regarding his friendship with Dante. How long can a friendship last when built on secrets? Sasha didn't offer answers, but she offered something more valuable: perspective. She reminded Cody that the strength of a bond lies not in its perfection, but in its resilience. If he hoped to preserve what he had with Dante, he would have to confront the truth head-on. Meanwhile, Trina and Kai found themselves exploring the new terrain of a relationship no longer just flirtation and chemistry, but something more grounded, more intentional. Their intimacy earlier in the week had opened a door, but the question remained: would they walk through it as lovers or as something deeper? The answer, though unspoken, was clear in the way they lingered in each other's space, in the way their hands found each other without effort. It wasn't just about the passion anymore, it was about commitment, about vulnerability, about a shared path forward. For Trina, who had known heartbreak too young, and Kai, who carried his own quiet traumas, this new beginning was a leap of faith. Amidst all of this, the looming specter of Michael Corinthos' return hovered over Port Charles like a storm cloud. Having survived the aftermath of the fire, Michael was now faced with a different kind of heat: a marriage crumbling under the weight of lies, a custody battle poised to ignite, and a family divided. His reunion with Jason was a calm before the inevitable storm, a moment of regrouping, of catching up on everything he had missed while fighting for his life. But no amount of rest would prepare him for what came next. Willow's transformation, the secrets she carried, the daughter who may or may not be his, all of it threatened to detonate the fragile world Michael thought he could reclaim. In a single episode, General Hospital managed to shine a spotlight on the complexities of relationships in all their forms: parent and child, former lovers, friends turned enemies turned confidants. There were no easy answers, no neat resolutions. Only raw emotion, exposed truth, and the first steps toward healing, or perhaps, in some cases, permanent fracture. Port Charles remains a city where no secret stays buried forever, and Thursday's revelations proved that the past, no matter how well hidden, always has a way of crashing into the present.